did my thing, and then I took away the next person. I took their speech away.
Were they like?
Yeah, they go like, Dr. Marty, would you please come back?
They should have just winged it.
Yeah, but you could tell she got up there. I mean, I just sat right behind her, and I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I just, yeah.
I can totally see that doing all the time.
Boy, this is like a classroom. Quiet's right down. Thank you very much. Well, I'm Keith Marty. I'm the proud superintendent of the Parkway School District, and it's my pleasure to welcome you tonight to the League of Women Voters annual candidate forum. Thank you for coming out. Really appreciate your attendance, and I know there'll be an opportunity for you to learn a lot about the candidates and before the election next week. I want to just speak to the candidates a moment. I've been a superintendent for 23 years in a couple districts, and I've been involved in education. And I've learned over the years that there's something special about school board members, and just the fact that people want to serve on the board. And I don't know if you know this, but they get a huge paycheck and they get a lot of benefits. But just the fact that when I think about democracy and I think about service, running for a school board is one of the fine examples of people that want to really serve their community and serve children, and I congratulate you for that interest and your willingness to put yourself out there in front of the voters in the community. So thank you very much. The League of Women Voters has had a long tradition of sponsoring events like this, and I'm very, very proud of their work. We should all be, because they're willing to, as an organization, sponsor events like this. So on behalf, and I failed to recognize a couple of our board members here tonight, Jeff Todd, our board president, Jeffrey Spector, Debbie Hopper, anybody else, any other board members? Oh, I'm sorry, Tiffany, Tiffany Matt Franklin, I'm sorry, are here tonight as well. But it's my pleasure to introduce Yvette Kell, who's going to be our moderator tonight. And again, I want to thank you for coming. Thank the board of the League of Women Voters, and again, thank you, candidates. Yvette, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. As Dr. Marty said, my name is Yvette Kell, and I will be moderating this evening. I'd like to thank the Parkway School Board for having us here and asking the League of Women Voters to come and help moderate and be a part of this process. We believe deeply in these candidate forums because it gives the voters a chance to hear the candidates and what they believe in and where they're coming from, and we think that's extremely important as it comes to your decision to be an informed voter. And hopefully everybody in here is already registered to vote and ready to get to the polls on Tuesday, if you have not already done some absentee voting. So. But I'd like to put a shout out to all of our volunteers from the League of Women Voters in the audience this evening. La Salette will be doing our timing this evening, so I will go over the ground rules momentarily, but she has the paddle and she's not afraid to use it. And then we have folks in the back. Jan and Karen will be taking in questions, so if you have any questions you would like to submit, or sorry, Nancy, if you have any questions you'd like to submit, if you've got a card or if you didn't get one of the index cards when you came in, please feel free to go to the back and grab one. And you can write a question down and then just wave it at them and they will get it up to me. It's important to understand that the questions that we're asking tonight, the league did not make these questions. We had an online portal, people submitted questions, so I have a list of questions that came in online prior to this evening, and then have already received about 7 questions from the audience here tonight. So I will get through as many questions as I can. We do have about 90 minutes here together, and to go over the ground rules, wanting to let you know how this is going to work. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening and closing remarks. And then for each of the questions, you'll have 1 minute to answer the question. We will change the order of who goes first as we go through. So we're going to start with Mr. Williams here on the end and work our way through for the first round. And then the second round, we will start with John and work our way around. And then we'll start with Kevin and work our way around, okay? That way, nobody is starting first the entire time and nobody's finishing last the entire time and nobody's in the middle the entire time. It mixes up. Now, I'm not going to say that after about question 10, I may lose where we're at in the system. So keep me honest and just holler at me if I miss somebody or if I start in the wrong spot. We ask that you keep your remarks focused to the issues and not to directing any questions at either any candidates, that the audience, we're respectful of everyone's answers, and as they're coming in, we don't need to provide any feedback other than giving a head nod if you need to, okay? But please keeping it very civil. We are here to hear what they have to say to the questions that we are asking. All right, and then at 30 seconds, you'll get a yellow, and at the end of time, you'll get a red. I will let you finish a sentence, but then I'm cutting you right off. I also like to have fun in case you haven't noticed. Because we're here to have a good time, y'all, okay? But we're here to learn more, and we're very excited to get started, right? All right. Well, we are ready to roll. Lasalette, are you ready to roll? All right. Mr. Todd, would you like to start us off with your opening remarks? And this is where we're going to start 2 minutes with opening remarks. And then we've got our microphone man in the back. He's going to take care of making sure that everyone can hear you.
All right, very good. Can you hear me? Well, thank you, Yvette, and League of Women Voters. I appreciate this. I want to say thank you to the candidates. Ms. Mighton, nice to meet you. Mr. Tettinger, nice to meet you. And also the board members currently. I appreciate your time. You guys have done admirable work those 6 years you've been on here, and as a parent, I appreciate the time you've spent. So thank you very much. I also appreciate Dr. Marty. Dr. Marty was able to sit down with me and actually answer a lot of questions. He reached out to me and really did a very good job making me feel comfortable running for this position. He also let me get in front of some of his administration and talk to them, ask questions, and really they all were very comforting in that position and answered a lot of those. So I appreciate you, Dr. Marty, for doing that. I know as we discussed that, there are other superintendents around the area and maybe nationwide that don't even sit down with new candidates like that. So I definitely appreciate that. And in the coming months, years, whenever, I really hope the next superintendent keeps that same mindset because I think it's very good for new candidates coming in. So thank you very much. The 3 things that I've really focused on in my campaign are school security. I believe in the Parkway School District, it's great that in the middle school and the high schools, we have SROs or full-time security in all those positions. The elementaries, we have around 19 of those elementary schools. ECC does not have any security. So what we need to do is actually get full-time security, whether it be SROs or our own Parkway full-time security in those positions immediately, as soon as possible. The next thing is we need to run the budget through the classroom and not as much through the administration. We need to make sure these teachers are paid well and retained for all the good work they're doing. And lastly, we have 2 big events coming up. Dr. Marty is retiring and the CFO is retiring in June, and we need to make sure there's a conservative on the board to get some more, get the groupthink out of the board and not have a 7-0 vote on that. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Taninger, you're next.
Well, good evening, and thank you, Yvette, and the League of Women Voters for giving us this opportunity this evening. And thank you, folks, for coming out. Just a little bit of backdrop on myself. My wife and I have been Parkway residents for the last 35 years, and I have 3 children that have all participated and have gone to Parkway schools. I am not an educator by career. I have 2 educators in my family. My wife worked at the college level, but also worked for the special school district for a number of years. And my youngest daughter is currently a kindergarten teacher. But I have, for the last 6 years, worked in the Rockwood school system as an OASIS tutor at my daughter's school. So I go in, I work with the reading specialist 1 day a week, and work primarily with 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade students to try and elevate their reading skills. I'm running for the school board primarily to serve as a voice and as an advocate for the teachers in our system, for our students, for the parents and grandparents, and really for all the people that support this district on a day-to-day basis. We have teachers that in their classrooms today are just really overwhelmed with a number of issues that I believe takes away from their ability to focus on academics in the classroom, and I believe that's an issue, and it's a concern. We have students that are performing at what I would consider below academic standards, and I really would like to see an emphasis placed more on academics in our classrooms and less on some of the issues that are taken away from those academics.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Mr.
I
Seltzer.
feel silly introducing myself with my name written in front of me, but I'll do so anyway. My name is Kevin Seltzer. I'm a current Parkway School Board member, along with Matt. I've been serving for the last 6 years. I also grew up in Parkway. My wife and I both graduated from Parkway, as did numerous relatives, and obviously our kids attend Parkway schools. Suffice it to say, we're a Parkway family. I like to think I'm a Parkway guy, and I just have the utmost respect and admiration for this district, and I love being a part of it. And one of the reasons I love it so much is our mission statement, which if we didn't have these banners down would be on the wall behind me. But it's an outstanding mission statement, and what I really respect is how it informs all the decisions that we make in a district, or we try to have our decisions informed by those words behind me. A colleague of mine who was on the board previously, Sam Sarantino, whenever we would get into a tough spot, working through a problem, he would always sort of bring us back in and say, how does it help kids? And it was, it's a simple sentence, but to me, it was such a guiding principle. It's what we're here for. Obviously, there's a lot of constituencies, but ultimately, at the end of the day, we're here for kids. And I like to think that, we all try to live by that creed, and how can we help kids, and that should be the forefront of all of our decision-making. To that end, I've learned a great deal over my 6 years. It's hard, it's hard to become a board member. There's no learning curve. The day you're sworn in, you're on the board. And it takes time to understand all the acronyms and all the, know who the people are and what's going on around you. But over the course of this last 6 years, I feel like I've gotten a handle of things, and I'd like to continue to put that experience to use. I also think that I bring board stability. I think we work well as a board. We've handled some crisis, some good times, some bad times, and I think things are going well, and I'd like to continue to serve. I also, along with Matt, bring board diversity. Both of us are in the geographical diversity, mind you. I represent the North District, and I think it's important to have different areas of the district represented on the school board.
Thank you.
All right. My name is Matt Schindler. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I appreciate you getting involved in the school board election. A lot of times, school board elections get overlooked. So I'm really glad you're coming out, and for those that are actually watching through streaming too, I'm glad you're here, because these are important issues. And for Parkway, we are a large district, and we do affect 17,000 kids. And for my role on the board, I joined Kevin on the board in 2018. It's been up and down. Obviously, we went through COVID during that time. But I've just gotten a greater appreciation for public education in general, maybe being on the inside, and the importance of it. My kids are going through, one's already out, one's still in at Parkway South. It's been a great experience, and I don't think we've truly valued what we have here at Parkway. And I think right now, in terms of being on the board and what we have in Parkway, we have a very stable board. We don't bring politics into our discussions. We leave our politics at home. We're not grandstanding up here as board members trying to get more attention. We're working as a group. Each individual board member is one person of a 7-person team, and you have to work together. And I don't think, it is a nonpartisan role, and I think it's very important to get that out there because primarily, what is best for the kids? It's about the budget and human resources. That is the crux of it. Politics does not get into this. So I really appreciate where the board is right now, and I really want to see over the next 3 years of my last term, to see it go further. Because I will say for me, I felt a little left out during COVID. We lost a lot of time. And I'm really excited about the next 3 years to take it to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening,
Ms. Mighton.
everyone. And as the other candidates have expressed, I want to thank you for being here. Being a part of a process is really important. And as a candidate for this opportunity, I want to be part of that process. I will formally introduce myself as Dr. Stacy Mighton. I am a over 25-year resident of the Parkway School District. I began my education in Parkway in 6th grade before the voluntary transfer program was in place. I am a graduate of Parkway South, where I was president of my senior class, and a proud mother of 3 Parkway successful graduates and a 17-year retiree at the district level from Parkway. And I tell you those things not to boost myself up or give myself accolades, but I think my experience matters. I have something to contribute to Parkway because I know Parkway. I have been involved not only as an employee, but as a parent and as a student. I remember what it was like. I remember what it was going through with my children, and then on the district level, in the position that I maintained, I was able to experience what policies were important, how to put forth the things that were necessary and good for children. So with the things and the experience and my quote-unquote accolades, I think I have that to offer, and that is going to make me the candidate that's going to give Parkway what it needs, because I'm coming from a place of knowledge and unique resources. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to jump into the questions. First question is a combination of one from the audience as well as one that came online, and we're going to start with Mr. Tedinger, and again, 1 minute. How would you define the role of a school board member?
Well, I think there's several responsibilities, but probably the primary responsibility that people look for is when it comes to hire a new superintendent for the district. That's a big responsibility for the school board to ensure that we bring in highly qualified people that are focused on education and academics. And I believe, as it relates to Parkway, an individual that can work with a diverse student population. So I think that's probably our biggest role. In addition to providing key resources that our teachers need to support them in the classroom and to manage the fiscal responsibility for the district.
Thank you. Mr. Seltzer.
So, technically speaking, the role of a school board member is twofold, to adopt policies and to hire and fire superintendents. However, the role, in my estimation, is more than that, although, as Matt alluded to, it's a whole lot more HR than I anticipated when I got into the role. I see it as 2 functions, governance and advocacy. Obviously, the governance is straightforward. We oversee hearings on disciplinary things, we approve or don't approve things, we ask questions. The advocacy, though, to me is paramount. We're tasked with implementing the values of the community into the operation of the school district. We listen a lot. We hear what people think, how they feel. We ask questions of the administrators and other stakeholders to make sure that the community is being served, that the values of our community are being perpetuated through the actions of the school district. In addition to that, I also think we're advocates for public education in general, and I don't take that part lightly. And over the next 3 years, I see that becoming an even bigger part of the role. We live in a state where local control is championed. However, in school districts, often that's not the case, as we get marching orders from Jeff City that we have to follow. But I think it's incumbent upon school board members to stand up for public education.
Thank you.
The primary role is oversight, both of the budget, of policies, of employees. But I think it goes to an extra level really right now. And I think really what Kevin kind of said is the advocacy for both, not just Parkway, but public education in general, because it really is under attack. There are things happening in Jefferson City right now that are not in the best interest of students. And we're having to deal with it and push back on it. And even locally, in terms of our funding for our district, there have been issues we've had to push back locally to try to preserve our funding for schools. And it's not gonna let up. Schools are a source of funding that people see and politicians see that they wanna get their hands on. And I think we need to be a strong advocate because we are the largest elected body in the state of Missouri. We need to actually work together in a much more effective way to really promote public education in a broad way.
Thank you.
And I would echo what has been stated in terms of the term advocacy. Advocacy is a big part, is a very integral part of what the board does. But advocacy is seen at so many other levels, and not just the overarching term. Advocacy is seen in how you monitor the budget, how you influence policies, how you make sure best practices are implemented in the district. And you see advocacy occurring in your HR support. So advocacy does cover, is an umbrella for what the board does in the many areas that it touches. And the advocacy also, not only does it create the opportunity for voices to be heard in terms of, as I said, human resources, policy and budget, but for people who make up the district. The advocacy needs to be where you hear the people that are making it a part of the board and who are supporting what the board is about. So make sure you advocate for those who support the board.
Thank you. And Mr. Williams.
I have to say, I strongly disagree with Mr. Schindler on the politics and leave that at home. That is not correct. There needs to be robust debate amongst the school board members. They need to actually come together and iron out what is right, what is wrong. Come together with an agreement, not a 7-0 stamp every time that they've been doing the last few years. So yes, I truthfully, I disagree with you there. Superintendent, CFO, these things are coming up very soon. We need conservative votes on the board. I think we get conservative votes on the board. I think some of these other board members need an outlet to go to and not just a rubber stamp like they have been for all this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'll remind again, not to address the other candidates. This is your thoughts and your answers based on what you want to throw out there, not necessarily agreeing or disagreeing with anybody else. Okay? It's not a debate. The next question came from online, and this is a two-part question. So what research have you done that has led to how you have established your principles regarding smartphone uses in schools? We're going to start with that one, and then we'll move to the second one. And we're going to start with Mr. Seltzer. So what research have you done that have led to your principles and how you feel about smartphone uses in school?
Well, the word research implies probably a more formal background than I may bring to the answer to this question. However, living in America for the last 30 years, I can't help but all of us be somewhat experts in cell phones and cell phone use and etiquette. The question is getting at cell phone use in schools, and it's a tough one. It's actually one that came up with some buddies of mine the other day who's one of their sons got in trouble for having a cell phone at school, and it's not easy. And I don't know that you can have an overarching policy everywhere. The reality is cell phones are part of our life. They're going to be part of our kids' lives, when they go home from school, when they grow up, when they go to college. I don't think you can teach and run a school and pretend that they don't exist. I also think that parents, for safety reasons and others, have become dependent on their kids having a phone. So I don't think you can get them out of our buildings. Are they distractions? Yeah, absolutely. But I do think that it's not really the role of a school board to decide, where a kid's cell phone should be in the course of a day. I think it's a decision that's better left to our teachers and principals who, they're on the ground and can manage those things so that they're used effectively and responsibly.
Thank you. Mr. Schindler.
My research, I've looked around quite a bit, had a number of discussions with my family even about the issue and how we handle it. And I think right now, part of it is too, their phones are gonna be there. We gotta teach our kids how best to manage it. And I do appreciate some of the teachers are really pushing back, and they are having their little pockets hanging in the classroom. When the student walks in, they put them in the pocket and it's gone for the rest of the class. Other teachers want to have that in the classroom and use it as a tool too. So again, I'm not sure if we put a policy out there on cell phones, but it definitely needs to be addressed in a more direct way. And maybe something even school by school to try different things to manage it, because it is part of our lives. Is it always positive? No. But is it partially positive? Yes. So we got to find our best way for us as teachers and our students to manage them.
Thank you.
When
Dr.
you asked the
Mighton.
question, I smiled because you said research, and I think research is a subjective term in terms of where your sources of information come from. And I will say that my research comes from my experience being in the district and being on the end of utilizing and then working with those to try to help them not utilize it so much. So it came from working with students in this very space when they wanted to use their phones and when they didn't need to. So it's a tricky type of situation. And as was referred to, it's the way of the society that we live in. They're going to exist. And in many academic environments, it's necessary, and in some, it is not. So it's really, as was stated, it should be back up to the educator of the classroom that is, whether it is being utilized, to say how it best needs to be utilized.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
That should determine this. Absolutely, 100%. It's their classroom. It's a privilege, not a right, to have a phone. If that student loses that right, it should go in a pocket. I agree. I think that should be in a pocket and be taken away. I think this is the only way to do it. Parkway's been around 70 years. It is part of our lives now, but we need to get back to educating these kids. And if they're on their cell phone underneath the desk, they're not being educated, and they could actually be a distraction to the rest of the students. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Tedinger.
I firmly believe that there's no place in the classroom for a cell phone. I believe that children should have the right to bring their cell phones to school in case they need to be contacted, but in terms of that cell phone being available in the classroom, to me, it's just an additional distraction that the teachers have to deal with. They are dealing with so many issues in the classroom, whether it behavioral, emotional, to deal with children that in many cases are more affixed to their phones than they are to anything else. I think it's just a distraction that takes away, again, from the teacher's ability to control the classroom and focus on academics.
Thank you. The second part of this question, and we'll start with Mr. Schindler, is still related to technology. So study results are clear that the use of technology, including school-provided Chromebooks, and specifically smartphones during school hours, is detrimental to student learning and building community. What steps will you take to encourage Parkway district-level administrators to develop a holistic district-wide approach based on best practices in high-performing schools across the country to ensure that our students learn in the best environment possible?
All right, well, obviously technology is with us, so part of our education does need to include technology and the best management of it. But I'll say one thing we're seeing here in Parkway, and we've seen in other districts too, is the opposite of the phone, is actually getting kids outside, using the outdoor education pieces. That's partially what my work does, so I have an extra passion for it, but that is the environment we need to get back to. I think we realized during COVID the benefits of nature and the benefits of getting outside, and schools learn the benefits of education that can happen outside too. So we're seeing more of that St. Louis-wide and in Parkway. And I would really love to see the balance then. You're going to have technology as part of the education, and a Chromebook can be useful. But we need to do the opposite. Get the phone away from them, get them outside in nature. You can teach them science, math, have them do English class outside. There's many topics you can take outside and have the same experience, the same education. And honestly, nature relaxes you. When the kids get outside, they come back in the classroom in a better mood.
Thank you. Dr. Mighton.
Yes, I agree that technology is necessary. It is a means that is the way our society and where we are functioning, and children are learning by leaps and bounds by utilizing technology, but it needs to be done with a balance, because it is not the only way for learning to be held. You spoke of outdoor learning. You spoke of there's opportunities for creative learning and other avenues for learning. And technology is not the only way. So there definitely needs to be a balance that needs to be created in terms of its use.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Yes, I believe there has to be a balance. Back to the phone, I agree. It shouldn't be in the classroom. The Chromebooks are part of the classroom, and I should be continuing to be in the classroom. I think the thing that's going to come up over the next few years is ChatGPT, being able to write papers, do research in a whim, and there's going to be a delicate balance between the teachers knowing what is AI and what is not AI. And that is going to have to be addressed by our curriculum superintendent and how this is going to be functioning, because there's going to be a point in time where you're not going to be able to see the difference, and that's a problem.
Thank you. Mr. Tedinger.
I believe that technology is a valuable tool. Technology is, it's part of our lives today. And our children have to understand not only how to use technology, but how to use it properly and the role that it's going to play in their lives. In terms of technology in the classrooms, you had referred to possibly benchmarking. You know, I think benchmarking best practices is a valuable tool. You know, my career was not in education, it was in packaging, and we use benchmarking all the time, and that's how you measure yourself against the best.
Thank you.
So that was an awfully long question, but it starts with a premise which I kind of take issue with, which is that technology is detrimental to our students. One of the things we learned during COVID, when we all had to go virtual, is yes, it was not ideal, and there are certain kids that very much struggled with it, but there were also kids that were finally able to succeed for the first time by removing barriers and focusing, their learning through technology. Not to say that that's for every kid, but I reject the premise that using technology is somehow detrimental to our students. But the other thing that I think the question gets into is what really is the role of a school board member? And having sat in this chair for 6 years, I can tell you that no teacher has ever asked me, how much computers they should let their kids use. It's just not something a school board would necessarily get involved in. But how can we be involved? How can we help in this area? And I think, Matt's point's well taken. Getting outside is great. Finding different ways to learn is great. How can we as a board facilitate that? The answer is to shape a district that attracts good people and good teachers and good administrators, and then let them have the freedom to utilize technology in a way that is advantageous to their students.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to start with Dr. Mighton on the end, and this question is from the audience tonight. In what ways have you supported Parkway prior to serving or running for the Parkway School Board?
What ways have I?
What ways have you supported Parkway prior to serving or running for the Parkway School Board?
Well, I'm going to my initial comments of I indicated that I was a 17-year retiree. And not only did I get paid for the position, but I gave back above and beyond in my role as an employee. I was at the district level, and I was involved in district level committees, district level initiatives that created things that went beyond my role as an employee. And then in addition to that, and most currently, I am the member of the executive board of the Parkway Alumni Association. So I felt that as an alum, I had something to give back. I had a good experience in Parkway, and I wanted those other alums in Parkway to realize that they had something to give back and offer too. So in that way, as a member of the Alumni Association, I have had the opportunity for the past 3 years to do that and have moved up to the executive board level so I can make it an even more intentional give back opportunity.
Thank you.
That's how I've done it.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
I guess the first thing I've done in my 27 years of being a tax-paying citizen in the Parkway District is being in good standing. Also, my sophomore son goes to Parkway, and he loves to play basketball. I helped coach a basketball team, a junior Longhorn team, since 3rd grade, all the way up till they were taken in as freshmen, and the reins were turned over. So that was an enjoyable time during his life, and I was able to coach, and hopefully that will benefit the program in years to come, and we have a very strong junior program in Parkway now across all sports, but I have to take credit for a little bit in the basketball area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Tedinger.
I guess in my 35 years in the Parkway District, my biggest contribution has been paying taxes for 35 years. But, you know, aside from that, and all joking aside, all of our children were very active in Parkway athletically. So I was very supportive of not only what they were doing individually, but of the Parkway teams. I did have a career that kept me on the road quite often, but I came back for those events, particularly when my children were involved. I've really had very little opportunity to be involved directly with the schools, other than through PTO. And here recently, I've been attending the Parkway School Board meetings just to better understand what's going on here in the district.
Thank you.
Well, my first 6 years in Parkway, grades 7 through 12, I was a pretty significant drain on Parkway resources. But I like to think that the time subsequent I've made up for it. As a school board member, I've probably had several thousand hours of meetings, answered and responded to and read. I can't even imagine 10,000 emails, all, and as Dr. Marty pointed out, all for a very significant salary. But I do think I've hopefully made up for the first years with the latter years of supporting the district in this capacity.
Thank you. And Mr. Schneider.
For our family, we chose Parkway. We chose Parkway to grow our kids. We moved from another area before our oldest reached kindergarten. So honestly, before the school board, is an active father, going to father-daughter dances, going to parent-teacher conferences, going to art fairs, just being an active participant, because I'm a big advocate of public schools. And we need to have more parents involved with their kids' education and going to events, going to the parent-teacher conferences. And I think that was, doing that and being involved in that got me excited, and then when the opportunity arose to join the school board, it was a great fit, because it took it to the next level. I got to get a behind-the-scenes understanding of what it takes to run a school district, the challenges and the successes of that. So it's been a fun ride, and I'm hoping to get 3 more years of the ride.
Thank you. All right, starting back up at the top. This one's about school safety and came in online. What are your views on school safety measures against acts of violence, specifically how some districts allow school personnel to conceal carry firearms on school property with valid licenses? Would you be for or against this specific policy?
As far as if it's within an SRO or private parkway security, I would be in favor of that. And that's one of my major platforms, is securing the schools. So I think it does lead to those issues of maybe an SRO or private security would help with those problems that arise in the classroom, and not just leave it up to the teacher to do this themselves. We are hiring new counselors next year that are going to be helping in this area, but I think security would be a major, major step in helping the teachers do their job even better and not have to deal with that on a daily basis of distracting the other students who are trying to learn at a very good pace and not just continue to restart every time someone has to be taken out of class. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tettinger.
I had significant training with weapons in my 4 years in the military. And I guess my view on weapons or people carrying in the schools, if we have professionals, whether they're police or security people that have proper training and understand the proper use of these weapons, I would fully support that, but I'm not so much in favor of people just concealing and carrying without really fully understanding what their capabilities are and how they would react in a serious situation.
Thank you. Mr. Seltzer.
So I think the question's asking not so much about police officers and SROs, but about concealing and carrying in schools. And, you know, as a board member, and particularly in nights like this, it's kind of incumbent upon us to sort of, you know, see both sides of issues and kind of come to a consensus. However, I can't help the feeling that it's hard to imagine something I'd be more opposed to than inserting more firearms into schools. It's just not a place where we need to have armed teachers. And it's just, to me, there's ways to secure schools. Some of them can be done at the board level. Arming our teachers and folks in our building, it seems to be about as bad an idea as you could have.
I agree. Yeah, I do not think we should be arming teachers, administration, leave it to the professionals. But I will say, though, in terms of resources that are out there, we have put a lot of resources in Parkway into security. For the bond issues with double door security, extra windows, the signage you see in this room, they're taking lots of steps. It's sad commentary on our society right now, but public schools are a reflection of our culture right now. And we're having to react to it. I've been through both the training our teachers get for active shooters. I've gone to the high school and seen their drills. It's scary. But we have to do it right now, which is sad in terms of what's going on in our culture right now. And I hope, as a whole for the culture, we can improve the situation.
I was waiting. Oh, it's okay now? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
Dr.
Well, my first, initial thought is that safety obviously is of utmost importance because it impacts the learning environment so significantly. If a child does not, or a teacher, staff person, parent that comes into the building do not feel safe, then there's a problem there. And along with that, but I do not believe that we need to start carrying weapons as educators and as staff within our buildings. I remember as an employee, we went through a approach where it was being considered for the teachers to conceal, and it was so not supported. And it isn't necessary. There's already enough problem in our society as it relates to gun violence and things that are going on outside the schools. Why bring that into the schools? And there are measures that can be put in place to provide safety, but not with teachers carrying guns, no.
Thank you. All right, we will start with Mr. Tedinger, and this is a combination of a couple of different questions that came in online as well as were asked here this evening. What does equity versus equality mean to you?
Well, when I think of equality, and many of you have seen there's caricatures of that compare equity with equality. If you had three people that were three different heights, and they're trying to look over a fence to look at a ball game, you would give each of them a different height of a stool so that they would all have the same opportunity to look at the game from the same height. So that would be treating everybody equally. If you treated them equally and they were of different heights, the shortest person may not be able to see over the fence. Equity would be a situation where you would provide the tools so everybody could look over that fence with different sized stools and they could achieve the same result with a different height stool. So, equity and equality, equality is going to treat everybody the same. Equity is to treat people differently, but look for a similar outcome.
Thank you. Mr. Seltzer.
I'm also familiar with the cartoon that John was alluding to, and if I had been the first to answer this question, I'm guessing I would have done something similar, because it does explain the difference far better than I think we can articulate in our minute. But to sort of piggyback what he was talking about, equality is about, equality should be a given. The equity component is, equality is treating everyone the same, which, fine. Equity is about taking into account where our students come from, what their experiences are, what their needs are, and creating an opportunity for all the students to succeed. And that might mean treating some students differently than others, which is not necessarily a bad thing. We all come into, kids come into a building coming from different places and different backgrounds and different experiences. And it's harder, equity is a lot harder than equality, because teachers, it puts more on a teacher to understand the student before them and find a way to get through to that student to help them succeed. And that should be the goal of a school district, and it's not easy, but it's important.
Thank
I
you.
think the definition's kind of laid out there, so I'll just kind of take it to the next level. In terms of, with equity in education, it is really personalizing as best we can to serve the students. And we're seeing more of that tested out in Parkway with Sorrento Springs and now at Central Middle. We're trying to meet the needs of the kids, trying to figure out where they're at to get them to the next level. Rather than giving them a blanket, just read your chapter, come back, take the test. And I think it's exciting to see. I encourage you to get a chance to visit those schools, please do, because I think it's kind of where we're heading right now. We are really, and it's more work for the teachers. They'll admit to it too, but it's exciting for them because they're seeing the results also, coming off that personalized learning and that approach that really, where's the kid at? Where do they need extra help to push them over the line? And then having that success. And we're seeing that, and we're gonna hopefully see that more throughout the district.
You know, as was referenced, the definitions have been stated, and really when you think about equity, it's not so much equity versus equality, because you cannot put one against the other. They need to be done simultaneously, and they are often transposed, the two terms. Equity definitely refers to fairness, and it's a checks and balances. It's a gauge of what is fair and who is being treated fairly. And with equality, in education, it's about seeking a level playing field, which Parkway has sought hard to work towards. And with not only the department that I was in, but just within the different spaces that I was in, we worked to make sure equality was sought in terms of the curriculum, best practices, providing a culturally responsive plan for children. So the two terms, while different, they need to work together.
Thank you. And Mr. Williams?
Equality, everyone has an opportunity. Equity is equal outcome. Put it in basketball terms, if you're shooting free throws, equality is shooting until you make it 10 times, let's say. Equity is moving the line up until you can make it 10 times. So I believe equality is very important, and we need to keep that in the Parkway School District.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Seltzer, you're going to start us off with, what is your background, or what background do you have working with underrepresented groups, and how do you, what skills have you developed in order to help better communicate and support underrepresented groups?
This would be a tough one to go first on. Well, I could get real cute as a lawyer and talk about representing unrepresented clients, but I don't think that's what the question is asking. You know, the question's asking, you know, what do we bring to this position to help underrepresented folks? And to me, what that speaks to is addressing the achievement gap that we have in America and in Parkway as well. And it's, to me, a primary focus as school board members is how do we create a district that can narrow that gap to create a situation where all of our students have an opportunity to succeed. And it's not a straightforward question, and it's something that doesn't have an easy answer, but I think as a school board, it's incumbent upon us to adopt policies, to adopt procedures, to try to put people in place to help bridge that gap.
Thank you.
For me, my career's been a nonprofit. So I've worked with refugees and immigrants coming to St. Louis, helping them to hopefully start a business, grow a business here in the region. And then of late, I work for an agency that promotes community gardens and school gardens across the region, both through St. Louis City, St. Louis County, Madison County, and St. Clair County. So it's really, I think the approach is, where are the communities at? Where are the people at? What assets do they have already? I think a lot of times we always look at people with a deficit. They don't have this, they don't have that. But what do they already have? And how can we build upon that to help build their projects, build their expectations of what they want to have, whatever that dream is for them and their local community and themselves. So I think in terms of working with other communities and trying to build them up, that's kind of been my career. So, thank you.
In a similar way that Mr. Seltzer just responded, has been my career. It's really been my life. I have chosen to be a part of environments and spaces where I serve as an advocate for an underrepresented voice, an underrepresented group, an underrepresented organization. And going back to my experience in my role as a district counselor, that was the responsibility of what I did across the district, not just in one school, one area, but across the district. And it wasn't just my job. It was my job to make sure the district was working towards working with underrepresented populations. So it wasn't just one person's responsibility, but I did have the experience to do that, not only within Parkway, but currently I'm on the board with an organization, a children's home, and working with the same population. So I continue to do that, because that's my life's mission.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
I have not had the privilege of doing that actually before, but I believe the way Parkway operates that I've seen in real life is equality. I think every child that walks through that door has an equal opportunity of getting out and graduating from Parkway. And I think we need to continue that. I think we've done a very good job over the 70 years, but we need to maintain that and bring it up to the standards of today and make sure that everyone does have an equal opportunity and have that continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tedinger.
You know, my experience in the packaging industry, we worked with a very diverse group of employees across all the plants that I was responsible for. Many immigrants, people that came in from lower income areas. And, you know, my view was always to provide every employee that we had the opportunity to be as engaged as they could, not only with what we were doing in the business, but with our customers. So we spent a lot of time working with folks, not only to bring their skill sets up, but to actively get them involved so that they understood not just the business itself, but our customers, and we would get them out into the field to interact with them.
Thank you. All right, we're starting with Mr. Schindler, and this next question is, what would you do to address the racial disparity in suspensions?
I'll admit, the hardest part of the, being on a school board, being a school board member is discipline hearings. And having to figure out what is the best future for some of these kids when they've done bad things. And the disparity we have right now in some of the discipline we have, it's a problem. And we're getting better, I think, in terms of really breaking down some of the numbers across the district to see if there are patterns or certain issues happening at certain schools. We're making progress, but we're not there yet. So I think it's gonna take more effort, both administration, the school board, and all the schools to kind of close those gaps.
Thank you.
My first response is to continue what was done when I worked in the district, to put forth the policies and initiatives to address the racial disparities that did exist within discipline. I sat on DRC, the Discipline Review Committee, for a year and witnessed the disparities. And we, as a group, focus group, the Equity Task Force, for 3 years, we spent time to focus on and look at and research what was going on, what constituted those disparities. And then beyond that, I would advocate to put in resources to dispel those disparities, meaning provide the counselors and staff that was necessary to address the issues that were done from the research. So research has to have been done, which it has been done, and then it needs to be continued, and then therefore you need to put the people in place to do the work that the research showed.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
I think this goes back to the diversity of ideas on the board, to be honest with you. I think there's plenty of school districts around the country that are probably addressing this issue and have been very successful at this issue. I think you bring some of these to the board and let's discuss them, take the good, take the bad, but not just rubber stamp everything like we've been doing. If there's problems going on, maybe we need to change things. Maybe we need to look at things differently. And that's how you have alternate ideas on the board, and maybe you can come up with different ones and implement some, but keep some the same. But I agree, this has to be changed. This is falling way too much on the teachers as far as letting them handle this first, but we need to change this.
Thank you. Mr. Tedinger?
You know, I believe that our approach towards disciplinary action should almost be colorblind. You know, from my standpoint, there should be a progressive disciplinary system in place, and everybody should be held accountable to adhere to those disciplinary procedures, irregardless of background or race. So to me, it shouldn't be a racial issue.
Thank you. Mr. Seltzer?
First of all, I want to echo a couple of things that were said over here. First of all, Matt's correct. It's the absolute hardest part of this job is dealing with discipline issues, sitting in a room before a kid who's made mistakes and figuring out, you know, what we're going to do about this kid's future. It's devastating. It's the toughest part of this job, and so I don't take any of this lightly. As far as the question at hand, I think it'd be really hard to say more than, you know, Stacy said it perfectly, and, you know, she's been in this role, and it'd be arrogant of me to think that I could say that better than she did, but everything that she was discussing, I think, is a part of the solution to the issue that you're discussing. And I think what goes along with that is owning that there's an issue. You know, this issue is before us in lots of districts, but not hiding from it. And I think Parkway, to its credit, owns up to it. You know, we had the State of the District the last 2 years, and we make some of those statistics public, and we say, this is a problem, this is an area where we can do better, and this is a marketplace of ideas, and we should be exploring all sorts of options to improve in this area.
Thank you. All right, so we're starting with Dr. Mighton this time, and we're going to staffing. We're going to talk about staffing a little bit. We are losing middle career teachers, 12 to 20 years, at a pretty rapid rate. How will you encourage the district to find and offer solutions that will keep our experienced educators in the classroom?
That was a very significant issue when I worked on the various committees, specifically making reference to the Equity Task Force, but then looking just across the board outside of Parkway, teachers leaving education at record-breaking rates is really sad. And what we began to do was look at the reasons they were leaving. Low salaries, low morale, not enough resources, not enough support. And so what I would do is look at addressing those issues. They're definitely something that's happening at the state level, because those are the issues that the legislator is focusing on. Looking to, first of all, increase teachers' pay, because teachers are the most undervalued profession that exists, and they are the ones that provide the basis and foundation for everything. Your politicians, your athletes, entertainers, all that kind of stuff. So definitely increase teacher salaries. But then look into issues of morale. What's going on that teachers are leaving? Why are they leaving, you know? And then in addition, well, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I was going to let you finish the sentence.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
Then that was give them more money.
Mr. Williams.
I believe there's three things. I believe the disciplinary problems are a huge issue of why they're leaving and going to either private schools or charter schools. Pay is definitely one. That's a hard issue to do as far as a public school, because there are certain years in and there's certain pay that needs to be addressed. But maybe we should look at partnering with the special school district and figuring out how we can partner as far as the kids that are in the classroom and special training for the teachers on how to deal with that. Because I talked to a lot of teachers, and there's a lot of issues with the internal workings of classrooms and the amount of work that's put on them and not the special school district or assistants or things like that. So I think there's a combination that, again, needs to be hashed out with the teachers, the principals, and the board, all looking at this together and coming up with a better solution.
Thank you. Mr. Tedinger.
I believe this is a critical issue in the school district here, from the standpoint that we need to win the classroom back for our teachers. Our teachers are struggling in the classroom. They come to work day in and day out with a love of educating their children. And with the distractions, whether it's emotional, social, whatever the issues are, there are so many distractions in the classroom that take away from the teacher's ability to focus on what they truly love to do. That we need to win them back that classroom and give them the resources they need to take care of the other issues and let them focus on what they love to do best, and that's just to educate these kids.
Thank you.
So yes, of course, the easy answer would be just to throw more money at the problem and pay teachers what they actually deserve. Unfortunately, as a public school, we're constrained by a budget, and there's only so much resources to go around. And so I just don't think I would like to see teachers make more money, but this problem is not going to be solved solely in that vein. I sort of thought after the pandemic, when all of us were home with our kids for a couple of years, that we would start to really, really appreciate what teachers were doing. And I think to an extent that's happened, but it hasn't, created the financial result that you would have hoped for. But how do we keep our veteran teachers engaged? if we take money out, other than the money part of it. And I think part of it is giving them some autonomy. Part of it is giving teachers the opportunity to to teach the way they want to teach. Obviously, there's constraints and there's curriculums, but the more we can let teachers do what they love, do what they do, and have control over how they do it, I think that will go towards having a happier workplace and a workplace that retains more teachers. I do think there's a couple other things that we can work on, class sizes, balance the workload. We put a lot on our teachers as far as educating and also social and emotional well-being, and those things are all important, and I certainly don't want to see them go away, but if we can help teachers, this is a really long sentence because my time went out, but if we can,
It's okay.
I'll let Matt take it from here.
Well, I guess for me, it's a little personal because my oldest daughter is a senior in college. She wants to be a teacher. She wants to go to public school. So what does her future look like? And I think for Parkway, though, we're lucky. We do pay well. We do have good benefits. And we are adding more support. Part of it is just support in the classroom because teachers are getting more and more placed upon them, and they need more support. Even just with custodians, we're down on our custodians in terms of staffing. Teachers are having to clean rooms now. So we need to get back to fully staff ourselves and actually get some of the burden off the teachers going forward. And then honestly, work with the union too. We need to talk to the teachers, figure out what they need and what they want, and what's going to keep them here. Because we are a destination district, and we need to keep it that way. Yes, we have teachers here that have issues and struggles. We're working with them. But we still are a high-level district that do attract administrators and teachers from around the region.
Thank you. All right, starting back at the top, Mr. Williams. Okay. An average of 46% of Parkway students are not testing in standardized testing at grade level. As a new or re-elected board member, how do you plan to address this statistic?
I really believe we need to get back to let the teachers do the teaching and the parents do the parenting. We can't allow the Parkway School District to assume the role of the parents. It's putting way too much on the teachers. We need to get back to the parents helping out much, much more. And I think this really could help with these test scores. One major thing that I think has been going on as far as this testing and proficiency and things like this, we've been seeing the GPAs climb as the proficiency has gone down, and I think that's a lot to do with parents complaining about the GPA, and that's not right. Proficiency is the key to graduating these students, and we need to get back to that as a district, and helping these teachers, taking the burden off them is one way to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. We just went to mood lighting somewhere.
If someone walks over there, it'll go back.
Oh, gotcha. It says lack of movement. There we go. Right, it is. It's a commercial break. Hang on. All right. Mr. Tedinger, if you need me to repeat it, let me know.
No. I believe that we've all experienced a little bit of a drift in public education from its primary activity, and that's been to focus on academics and critical thinking. And I think that because of the issues that our teachers are faced with in the classroom and their inability at times to fully focus on academics, that certainly affects the student's outcome. But I also, I'm a firm believer that there needs to be more parental involvement too, to support what the teachers are doing in the classroom. Quite often, we see parents leave everything up to the teacher, but there needs to be a lot of parental support to go along with what the teachers are doing in the classroom.
Thank you.
So the lawyer in me wants to pick apart the question, and that you said 46% are not testing at grade level, and obviously I don't know where that statistic comes from, and I can't vouch for the accuracy of it. But I guess it begs the question, what does that mean to be testing at grade level? And to me, two thoughts come to mind. One, we just came out of a global pandemic, and the kids you're talking about also had 2 years that were very different from 2 years that a lot of other kids have had over the course of history, and to hold them to a certain standard might not exactly be fair. But the other thing it highlights to me is, what is assessment, and how do you assess students? And I'm proud to be part of this district. We have an assessment department that is, everyone's trying to hire our people, because our assessment is outstanding. You know, we are part of an initiative to change the way Missouri, evaluates schools. I think figuring out how we evaluate students and then how to reach them is, a paramount concern. So just to say, yeah, our kids, they're 46% are not tasting a grade level, I don't think tells anywhere near the story. And to say that, maybe we should just be focusing on academics, I think that's problematic too, because some of these kids are having trouble learning because they're dealing with other things, and if we can help them to get to a place where they can learn, it's not just the academics, these are people, not test scores.
Sorry, I got distracted.
Stole my answer. Wow,
you should've
okay,
said over
dang
here.
it. But really, yes, the test scores have dropped over the past few years, and it's not just a Parkway, it's St. Louis, it's the whole nation. But you look at the Parkway's numbers are still well above the Missouri average too. So our standards are still there, just we're dealing with it. We're having to figure it out. And the testing system we have is not the greatest right now. And I think I applaud Parkway for joining other districts, trying to find a better way to track and actually take that data in a much more timely fashion to put it into actually action. Because reporting comes out so late from the state, we can't actually get to the kid to actually make a change. So if we actually, as Parkway now moves ahead with, hopefully in the next couple of years, a new method of actually assessing and judging our kids, we can actually be more responsive for them to help get them up to where they need to be in a much more efficient fashion.
Thank you.
I just want to ditto or echo what Mr. Seltzer said, because you answered that question very well, because you identified what happened when we came out of the pandemic. And as an educator, having been part of the pandemic, and then as an educator working with students that came out of it, they were still behind. And we're still and our students are still catching up in ways. Test scores are a barometer of one's learning, but like Mr. Williams says, they are not the indicator of how proficient they are, how knowledgeable they are. And so our measurements of success need to be looked at. They need to be looked at in a different way. Test scores should not be the only way you determine if a child is successful or not. And I want to applaud Parkway, as was indicated, that they were working towards doing that. Their assessment department was great. And we provided statistics and opportunities that gave us information to look at different ways of measuring student success. Test scores don't do that.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Tettinger, we're going to start with you, and this next question is about book banning. What role do you believe the school board plays in banning or not banning of books? And where do you stand on how to incorporate teachers, parents, students?
At the end of the question.
That's the end of the question. Sorry, I should have said question mark. Yes.
I guess my view on book banning is that the books in our school libraries, I think the only books that we should have in our school libraries are those that are age appropriate. I do not believe that we should have books in our libraries that are pornographic and not age appropriate for our children. I don't believe that it's our responsibility to ban books, but if parents want their children to look at books that are not age appropriate for the kids, they can go to the public library and look at it. But we have a responsibility in our schools, I think, to make sure that nothing in our libraries are outside being age appropriate for the children in our grade schools or middle schools or high schools.
Thank you.
So when I first heard the question, I wanted to be glib and just say no role in banning books and then pass it off to Matt. It was just like emphatic, but I think the question deserves perhaps a little more discussion than that. We talk about local control in government, and this is an issue that I think requires that. Yeah, I think state, federal bans on books are silly and counterproductive. We at Parkway have good people. We have good librarians. We have good teachers. I assure you that if you hire good people and you have those people in place, they are not foisting pornography on our children. And I don't think it's the board's role, I think, to decide what books go in a classroom. I think it's the teachers and librarians' role to decide what goes in a classroom, what to assign, and what is appropriate. Furthermore, it's counterproductive for two reasons. The first being, when there was the ban on some books, or I think that was beginning of this school year last year, what it prompted us to do is go through, use a lot of administrative time going through books, but we also had to cancel all the students' access to the public libraries because we didn't know what was there and we couldn't risk having our teachers arrested. And so the kids ultimately suffer because, they lose access to public records. It's also counterproductive, and then I think there's no sure way to get a kid to read a book than to ban it.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Schindler.
I agree with most of that. I'll just add on to it, really. Because in Parkway, if a parent has an issue with a book, we can put a check on it. They don't check it out at the library. And there's a process we have, too. If there's a book that the parent believes should be out of the library, there's a process for that. We have a committee for that. It's already set up. There's no need to have anybody else outside of us judging by what kind of books we put in our classrooms. And the other issue, too, is the fact that I always find it very humorous because the phones they have has much more information out there than a book will ever have. That could actually be offensive.
Thank you.
My first thought to the question was, there's no place for book banning at all. Because when you ban books, that's erasure of education, of history, of knowledge. And that is not what our society is about, and is definitely not what the Parkway School District is about. The Parkway School District espouses learning, critical thinking, and just outside of the box. And if you ban a book, you take that away. And that is not what needs to happen in the district at all.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Yes, I believe the school board has no role in banning books at all. Age appropriate, and it pains me to agree with Mr. Seltzer, but excellent librarians in the Parkway School District, we need to rely on them. We need to rely on them, let them do their job. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Seltzer, we will start with you. What role should a school play in student mental health and socio-emotional development?
An active role is the short answer. The longer answer is harder. Some of the kids that come into our buildings, it's easy to assume that, everyone has a similar background to you, but that's 100% not the case. The kids that come to our buildings come from all different places. Some of them don't know where the next meal is coming from. Some of them are, being, in an abusive situation. Some of them have, an alcoholic parent. And they come into a building and then, they're expected to learn. But that building might be the only place that they can get help, the only place that there's an adult that they can trust. And so I think it's incumbent on us as a district to make our buildings safe, welcoming places and to meet the needs of these students. Because, it's easy to say we should be focused on academics. They should learn science, they should learn math, and our students should. But you can't really learn science or math if you've got all that baggage you're walking in the door with. And we need to be there for these kids to help them because in a lot of instances, we're the only people that ever will be.
Thank you.
I mostly agree, because really, you think about 30 years ago, the answer would have been different. Nowadays, mental health is part of our education system. And yes, we are still teaching the core subjects, but we are having to put more resources in getting the mental health state of our kids in a good place so they can come into classroom, like Mr. Seltzer said, and learn. Be in a place to learn. Because if you have trauma, you have issues, and you walk in the classroom, you're not ready to learn. So it's evolved for public education and taking this role on that we have to do it. And it's going to continue. And there's more and more issues coming up. And I think as a district, we're learning about other challenges to learning. And I'll admit, we're learning too as we go through this process about different disabilities, different challenges our students have, and we're adapting as best we can with the goal of trying to serve all of our students the best way we can.
Thank you. Mr. Michael?
I echo what has been said, that involvement in mental health initiatives and education is a must throughout the entire district, not just for those who are hired to do that, as I was as a district counselor working with individual families and students in and out of the classroom, visiting homes, working with students through the pantry after school. You have to provide a support for their mental well-being because they will not be able to function and learn within the classroom and school environment. And if the district doesn't support that intentionally, you will see some results that are not very good for the students of the district.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
Yes, so I actually was dropping off a sign to a teacher, a kindergarten teacher that just retired last year, and she brought up a very interesting point of during the COVID issue, the students coming back now to class, when you get them in the kindergarten class, we are putting the curriculum at a very fast pace to try to catch up with things. And what she pointed out was, these kids have a lot of social anxiety going on that was supposed to be taken care of earlier on, and you're speeding the process on quickly on these kindergartner teachers, and it's going to create more problems. Lastly, I think the 15 new counselors that Parkway is staffing next year, I think it's going to be excellent for the district. I think that was a great move, and I look forward to helping those counselors do that.
Thank you. Mr. Tettinger.
I agree with Kevin's comments relative to schools do need to take an active role in supporting these issues, and students do need to feel that they can come to a safe and welcoming environment. I don't believe that it's the teacher's responsibility in the classroom to not only have to deal with academics, but to be a counselor, so to speak, and to handle all these issues. That's one area where, as you come to board meetings here, the teachers are screaming for resource support to address those issues and to get help in the classroom. But we have to take an active role to help those kids, but I think teachers need the resources to do it properly. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. This is going to be the final question for the night, and I know I have not gotten to all of them. I will address that momentarily. I have a lot up here I'm trying to shuffle around. But this is going to be the final question for the night, and it is going to be a softball question. I will throw that out there right now, because I'm gonna challenge you for your closing remarks. But what do you think are the top 3 challenges Parkway is facing right now? And Mr. Schindler, we're going to start with you.
Honestly, the first one is mental health. That is a challenge we have right now. We're still dealing with it. We're still working through it. That probably is a number 1 challenge right now. And number 2, I think right now is, I think just getting the kids more experiences. I think both at the elementary, at the middle school, at the high school level, we need to get them more experiences. I think we've realized the value of getting the kids personalized learning, and at the high school level, the choice programs of actually getting them out of the classroom, getting them in the real world, getting a taste of what's going to be like out there, making those decisions and choices of what they enjoy and where they really do thrive. And then thirdly, another challenge. I'm going to turn it into a praise. One thing we haven't discussed at all is the budget. Parkway has a great budget. We are doing very well. We have large reserves. So I just want to put that out there because we look at other districts right now discussing 4-day weeks because of budget issues and challenges along those lines. We're not discussing that here. We have a very stable situation, and we need to be proud of that.
Thank you. Dr. Mighton?
Well, I would agree with the first point that Mr. Schindler made was the social, well, he said mental health, but I'll just say the social emotional health of the students, staff, and just the district in general. That is the undercore of what propels them to do their jobs, to function as teachers, and then for the kids to learn. Second to that, and I wouldn't say necessarily, I don't know that I would say second, but it is very a high priority, is teacher morale. Because as you referenced earlier, teachers are leaving the field of education. Why? We need to look at that and change that, because teachers provide the foundation for our society. And then I would say thirdly, the curriculum. Just what's happening in the curriculum. There's been so many challenges, from the legislature to, interest groups wanting to have a say in terms of what the curriculum should be. And we're getting away from what's fundamental so the children can learn and then be productive citizens in our society. So those are the 3 I would say.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
I believe the 3 challenges we need to look at, first of all, the Parkway Board needs a better diversity of ideas on it. That's got to happen April 2nd. Proficiency testing, I think that has to increase. And one thing that maybe we need to look at more is trades. Maybe not every student is going to go to college. Increasing the trade programs in Parkway needs to happen. And that would give them another option of, after high school, what are they going to do? They're going to have a heads up because of Parkway going through those trade programs. And another issue, I think, as far as the budget goes, we're demanding that teachers are paying for a lot of things at the beginning of class that they really shouldn't be out of their own pocket. Maybe even fundraising by parents for a bake-off or something like that. I think there's plenty of money in the Parkway School District to take care of all these needs without anybody coming out with out-of-pocket more than what their property tax bills are currently. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tedinger.
As I've attended the board meetings over the last year, the three things that really stick out to me the most are the lack of resource support or the shortage of resource support that our teachers have in the classrooms. And not just the teachers, but across the system. I do believe that teacher and employee morale is an issue. And I also hear it's a common thread that communication and lack of transparency across the district as key issues come up has been an issue. Parents bring it up, employees bring it up. And I'm not sure what the cause is there, but we need to be better communicators and be more transparent in terms of what we're doing.
Thank you.
Well, I'll return the favor. It pains me to agree with Todd Williams, but I do on this one. I think we need to rethink, one of the challenges we face is what does school look like in the years to come? As Dr. Marty has pointed out, if someone came from 100 years ago and walked into one of our buildings, or they came back, butchering this, I'm sorry. If someone from the past, from 100 years ago looked at the world today, everything would be different except for the way we teach high school. And that's something that we need to think about is how do we change the way we teach? How do we offer programs without the expectation that every kid's going to graduate and go to a four-year college? How do we give our students the opportunity to learn in different ways and change the way education looks? Second, I would say is teacher retention, hiring new teachers. We're looking at a future it's going to be tough to fill some of these roles. And how do we make Parkway, or how do we keep Parkway a destination district where teachers want to come and want to stay? And finally, we've got aging facilities. Parkway, a lot of our buildings were built around the same time, around 70-ish years ago, and they're all kind of getting old at about the same time. And that's going to be a real challenge to this district and this board in the years to come is how do we invigorate our district by having usable buildings that are, a lot of them are going to need a lot of work real soon.
Thank you. All right. So as we go into, I'm going to give you a minute to catch your breath and to think about this. We had several questions I didn't get to, and I do apologize, but had a stack. Some things to possibly address in your closing statements. The funding of the arts, or the lack funding of the arts. Middle school sports was another topic that was brought up. That currently there's that schools do not have school-sponsored middle school sports. That it's parent-run and parent-funded. Excuse me. Teaching or having a curriculum with hot-button political topics in the classroom. So hard subjects about America's history and cultural differences amongst our students. And then finally, there was one more question about school safety and utilization of SROs within disciplinary procedures. So munch on those for a moment. You can address all of them, none of them, one of them, totally up to you. I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. Very much appreciate all your questions. I am sorry I did not get to all of them. There were a lot up here, and I tried to combine as much as I could. If your questions did not get answered, I encourage you to speak to the candidates one-on-one. Reach out to their sources, look them up, make sure you educate yourself on where they're coming from in the areas that concern you. And most importantly, make sure you get out and vote on Tuesday. Again, very much appreciate you being here this evening. Appreciate you bringing the League of Women Voters. I do appreciate some of the jokes that were put up here. That always makes the night go by a lot easier. In your closing remarks, you have 2 minutes, and we start at the end of the table. Dr. Mighton.
So I get to go first.
That's right.
Everybody gets to follow me. Well, first I want to say thank you all for being here. And I'm going to take off my mom voice. I have a tendency to be very serious. about what I do, what I'm involved in, and I'm very passionate about that. So therefore, as a mom, you come across as very serious because you want your kids to hear you. You want you want to be understood. And I definitely don't view you all as kids, but I want you to understand and know that my experience and the exposures that I've had in Parkway for the length of time that I've lived in the district and been involved with the district as an employee and then as an alumni member make me want to, it motivates me to be part of this board. I'm not seeking this for personal gain nor to address an issue, to get something resolved. And I'm not trying to say that anybody else is, but I want to be a part of the structure, which I believe is what the board is. The board is the structure for the district that puts forth the blueprint of how the district moves. And I talk with my hands, so excuse me on that. But I want to be part of that structure so I can use my skills, my abilities, my knowledge to influence the district board when they influence district policy, district practices, district budgets and ways. I want to influence how they monitor the best practices of the district to ensure that the board is being held accountable by the constituents that come to the board, and then that the board holds the district accountable for what they say they're going to do. So that's why I want to be on the board, and I believe with my experience, I can provide that.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Thank you very much for coming out. I appreciate the League of Women Voters putting this on. Maybe in the future, we will have a debate. That'd be great. Let's just get the middle school sports. It's very interesting. I come from a school system about an hour south of here. Everybody has junior high sports or middle school sports. Even around the Missouri area, everybody has middle school sports. It is a wonder why that is going on, and I think maybe it has something to do with private schools and these select teams. They don't want that. That's big business. So that addresses that question. But last of all, running for the board, hey, these people are to be commended that have done this for 6 years now. I appreciate it very much, again, like I said. But the taxpayers out there in Parkway, you're running Parkway. You are electing the board members here to make sure the school is run correctly. If you feel like your voice is not heard out there voting, you need to look at other alternatives. And I hope I'm one of those alternatives on April 2nd. There needs to be discussion on the board. There needs to be ideas bounced back and forth. Not everything is agreeable to everybody. It's okay to have robust debate. So let's do that. Let's do that. Maybe we need to start the pendulum back the other way and get a very diverse, idea-driven board back in Parkway. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Tedinger.
Thank you very much again for hosting us tonight, and thank you all for coming out and participating and supporting us all. When my wife and I moved here 35 years ago, we did move here because Parkway was a destination school district. When I look at Parkway today, and I look at our neighboring school districts, both Kirkwood and Rockwood have surpassed us academically, and that's a concern. I believe, and I'm concerned, that in spite of the focus on academics, that there's a bit of social activism that's taken place in our schools, and it doesn't belong in our schools. I'm concerned, and I believe that there's a battle going on right now for the hearts and minds of our children. I've got 2 young granddaughters that potentially will be coming into the Parkway School District, and I'm here to fight for them. And I'm here to fight for your kids. I'm here to fight for the teachers. I want to be a voice for not only the parents, the teachers, and the children that are going to school here, but we need to be on the right side of that battle. I really applaud each and every one of these folks. It's not easy to sit up here and respond to your questions, and I appreciate the work, that both the commitment and that you all have made over the last several years to serve this board. It's very commendable, and I just appreciate the opportunity, and hopefully I can earn a position myself to serve the community here on the board.
Thank you.
We only have 2 minutes, but if people are good enough to submit a question, I kind of want to hit everything. Funding of the arts, I'm pretty proud of Parkway's record in this field. A couple weeks ago, I was fortunate enough to do the opening at the district-wide orchestra concert, where I saw 1,000 kids playing at St. Charles Family Arena, and we have lots of other theater, band. I feel like it's a strength of Parkway, particularly the program where elementary school kids are all playing violin and have that opportunity. Middle school sports, I know my son plays for the Parkway North Junior Vikings. I understand it's sort of a club thing, and if there's any opportunity to expand those programs, I'd certainly, it's something I would be in favor of. I just think that those are great opportunities for kids to make friends and, participate. As far as teaching hot button issues, I think there is absolutely a place in our schools to discuss things that sometimes make people uncomfortable. I think, the idea of, you don't talk about certain issues just makes it more divisive. I think the earlier on we can get kids talking to each other about things they might not agree upon in a respectful way, I think we as a society will do better if we're able to encourage that more. As far as security, Matt highlighted some of the things that have transpired in our schools over the years, vestibules, different security things in our buildings. It's always a balancing act, particularly when you're involving the police departments and the SROs. But where I do think Parkway is sort of a leader is we combine the roles of security and communications are all under one umbrella. And I think that's critical because when there is an issue, when security does become, when there is something going on, it's not just the response, it's also the messaging to parents. When you get that alert on your phone and you don't know what's going on, it can be terrifying. And that's why it's so critical that our security and communications work so closely together, because keeping parents in the know it's critical. And finally, there's been talk tonight about rubber stamping and 7-0s and no marketplace of ideas. And I hesitate to call it insulting because I'm part of a 7-member board that we work together. We collaborate, we ask questions, we ask hard questions, we challenge each other. And yes, votes may come out 7-0, but that's after a robust debate. And it's, like I said, I don't want to say it's insulting because I'm honored to be a part of a board that works that way.
Thank you.
I was actually going to get into that. Yes, we are running on our records. We both have been on the board for now 6 years, and it's a stable board because we do work together. Honestly, I do not always agree with this man next to me, but I do like him because there are issues that come up that are not black and white. There's lots of gray area we get to deal with as a board. So for us to think that we're stamping things, we work as a great team. I really appreciate other board members that are here tonight too. It's actually a good group. We all care so much about kids right now. That is the focus. And when you see other districts around the region bringing politics and their own personal politics onto the school boards, what do you see? You see disruption at the school board level that filters down. Honestly, Parkways benefit from that in other districts because we have administrators and teachers leaving those districts and applying here because we have a stable board. We have a moderate board. We have a respectful board. And I hope to be part of that board going forward for the next 3 years. And honestly, my website's MatthewSchindler.com. There's a QR code outside. Please vote on April 2nd, and honestly, bring 10 other people, your family, your friends in Parkway, and make sure they vote too. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give our candidates a round of applause. Thank you so much for running for the board and for being part of the process. Very much appreciated. I know it's not easy to sit up there and answer all these questions. Thank you again for coming. Thank you to the candidates. And again, please feel free to talk to the candidates and ask them your questions if you did not feel they got answered. Thank you.